In the world of music, out of all of these amazingly creative people, it's not hard to believe that there are composers who try to go above and beyond the rest, pushing boundaries that some people don't even dare to think about. For many composers, this may be because they feel they don't have the tools to write what they currently want to write. For some, this is solved through interesting orchestration, pairing strange instruments together in unfamiliar ways to create unique timbres. For others, this is solved through the unique world of electronic music, building their own sound out of specific wave types, and performing feats of musical dexterity that are physically impossible. Some explore performance techniques, drawing strange and unusual sounds out of instruments we're all familiar with. But even with all of this, some composers are even still unsatisfied. These individuals take it a step further, taking the design process into their own hands, building brand new instruments, or redesigning ones that we're all familiar with the goal of capturing the sounds they hear in their minds. Today I'll be talking about a few of these composer-inventors. Stick around to the end, and you'll get to hear this final bonus round where I'll discuss a composer you might be expecting, but not for the reasons you think. To start off with, we'll go with one of the most famous examples, John Cage, who commonly credited with the creation of the practice of the prepared piano. The prepared piano is, in most cases, a simple piano with a number of additions. Typically, these can take the form of objects inserted between the strings, such as screws or nails, or even kitchen utensils. Objects can be laid across the strings to reverberate when played, and many other things as well. This is credited to a commission Cage received, where he was to write music for a dance entitled Bacchanal. To this point, Cage had been writing exclusively for percussion ensemble. However, the hall that this performance was to be premiered in did not have room for a percussion ensemble, instead only having a single grand piano. Cage at some point had a eureka moment, realizing it was possible to place in the hands of a single pianist the equivalent of an entire percussion orchestra. The techniques Cage developed over time were really brought to light in his sonatas and interludes, which is a small suite of music for the prepared piano. Now, as shown by Cage, the piano is often a starting point for many composers as they seek to find the next sound they're looking for. These days, many music makers control a ridiculous quantity of sounds through a MIDI keyboard. But before these electronic marvels existed, composers would use the piano as the starting off point for their instrumental experiments and innovations. Two prominent composers who focused on this concept were Alois Habe and familiar face on the channel, Ivan Wishnegrodsky. These two are widely considered to be the frontrunners of the search for a true quarter-tone piano. Their designs looked a little something like this. Typically, they had 2 or 3 keyboards, which were essentially stacked pianos that were tuned a quarter tone apart, housed in the same frame, which is much easier than the performance standard today, which is taking 2 separate grand pianos, tuning one up a quarter tone, and sitting them next to each other. There's kind of a neat trend here of the composer-inventor just fusing 2 instruments. In Cage's case, it's the piano and percussion ensemble. In Habe and Wishnegrodsky's case, it's 2 pianos. Have you ever considered, though, what would happen if you just kind of smashed together 2 saxophones? No? Well, famous jazz musician George Braith has, and that is what led to his invention of the Braithophone. While Braith isn't the first to consider playing multiple horns at once, especially with the technique being premiered by pioneer Rasad Roland Kirk, especially in the jazz world, and, any middle schooler with 2 horns ever, Braith really took it to the next level with the Braithophone. I'll include a small clip for your viewing pleasure. Credits of Mr. George Braith himself. Now, when we're discussing someone who has built their own instruments to suit a compositional career, the name Harry Partch almost has to come up. Partch built a wide assortment of instruments to play his own music, which was based on a very strict concept of just intonation, which led to divisions of the octave into 43 equal segments. While other composers we discussed have invented a single instrument in their pursuit for the next sound, in composing, Partch built, at a minimum, 26 different instruments. These include the adapted viola, a viola built with a cello fingerboard, the diamond marimba, which was a physical manifestation of Partch's own musical philosophy, and many, many others. But for an example of the composer-inventor on a large scale, and I do mean large scale, look no further than Adrian Fokker, who built what is now widely known as the Fokker Organ. This giant organ was based around a 31-note equal division of the octave, and was originally housed and built in the Tylers Museum in Haarlem, the Netherlands. And for a more modern and much more famous example of this, we have to head to Sweden to see something that was an internet sensation, I believe only 10 years ago. Wintergatan's marble machine was an instant hit with the internet, and it's not hard to see why. The amalgamation of vibraphone, bass guitar, and simulated percussion uses marbles on a programmable track, and the fascinating music this eye-catching contraption created was just about the cherry on top. Now, as I claimed at the start of the video, there is a quick final bonus round here, and this one might surprise you. I want you to remate a famous face, Richard Wagner. Now, this isn't about the Wagner tuba, which I assume is the thing most people would think of when they discuss Wagner as a composer-inventor. However, Wagner simply commissioned the horn, didn't create it himself. No, Richard Wagner accidentally invented the bass clarinet in A. And no, I won't be elaborating. However, there will be an upcoming video on the subject quite soon. This has been an elaborate plug. And if you're interested in that, or other videos about composing and music, feel free to stick around the channel by hitting the subscribe button, the like button, or whatever you do to create the YouTube algorithm. If there are some unique instruments you want me to know about, or others, feel free to leave them in the comments. I've barely scratched the surface of this incredible rabbit hole, and that's just by sticking to the instruments invented solely by composers, and not even every instrument invented by a composer. I would of course love to know about as many more as possible, being a bit of an instrument maniac myself. I've been Austin Koblarczyk, amateur instrument hoarder and historian, and that's all. So thanks. I'll see you next time.